anybody wants to have further discussion around that, I'm very happy to do so. Right, we'll now move to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 9, which is recommendations from the Appointments, Performance Review and Value for Money Committee. And if I can ask Ross Churnside and Kevin Ramsey to come to the table, please. This is a paper I'll move formally. Have I got somebody from that committee that wants to second? The Deputy Mayor seconded. It's to consider the review that's been done on our finance section, and it's particularly to look at ways in which we can provide further saving and streamlining of the process. And I think the advantage of what's being proposed is that, for example, just in terms of the third recommendation, or fourth recommendation, one of the recommendations, by streamlining the process, there's a potential $18 million worth of savings within the 10-year period. So this would give the Chief Executive the chance to work with other Chief Executives of our CCOs to make sure we can achieve the greater efficiency and the greater savings that are possible in this area. But Ross, you might like to speak in more detail to the paper. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And I'll just give councillors just a brief overview of the paper. I mean, this is the 8th value for money review that we have completed of the finance function. We found that, finance is there's a number of positive elements for finance and finance management for the council. We've got a clear financial strategy to move to a sustainable financial position in the long-term plan. We have, good practices in place to maintain our credit rating and maintain borrowing at prudent levels. We've got a step change in the capital expenditure in the long-term plan, and there's, an increasing role for finance to be able to support the council and both the councillors, but also the service delivery of that. Overall, finance costs are reasonable when we compared to benchmark, but there are opportunities for efficiencies, which the Mayor just highlighted one of those. We see good examples of shared services in finance, with collaboration occurring across the group on a number of matters. There is both transactional shared services provided to regional facilities, ATID and Panuku, but also in other aspects such as tax management, accounting, span the group, and we take a group practice treasury across the group. When we look at the roles of finance, generally they're effective, and there's been no significant internal control issues remaining outstanding from either Audit New Zealand or our internal audit. New technologies are starting to be used in finance, and a good example, say, for Auckland Council, by applying robotics, automatic processing technologies, we're able to reduce the transaction costs for things like accounts payable. The review had three main recommendations. The first one was actually building on the shared services that are in place across the group, actually working at what a future roadmap or strategy could be to expand that. The second recommendation was around actually how do we manage financial information across the group. What we saw while doing the review, there was examples of duplication, people being asked for the same information twice, and actually there's an opportunity to get more efficient and effective in joining up there. And the last recommendation is around improving the planning and reporting process. To simplify and streamline that, councillors will have seen the quarterly reporting has changed. That's one step, but also the internal reporting. There's a programme of work has actually already been established around that, and we're well on the way to achieve those savings that are forecast in the report. But happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Ross, and once again, thank you for the team. I think the team has done incredibly good work, and probably it's not widely understood among the public that between Value for Money, which will look at saving maybe up to $500 million in the 10 years, and other efficiency savings, this council will have collectively saved $1 billion through that period, and that is an important sum of money that then becomes available for use in things that we around this table would regard as priority in spending. Interestingly, I did put a statement out the other day that in the last year we've saved $5.3 million on cutting our use of utilities like power and water, and it was disappointing that that got no publicity when discussion about somebody who was advocating, you know, I forget what they call the term, ambassador for Auckland, costing $12,000 got headlines. So 5.3 million in savings, nothing. $12,000 on somebody advocating for Auckland was an issue, but that's the world we live in. Right, any questions? Councillor Casey.
Ross, it's just a question about the use of a phrase in here. I'm looking at the group financial information strategy where we have one point of contact for all requests for financial information. It's the single source of truth as a statement. Truth in financial terms means accuracy.
Yeah. Through the chair. Well, yes. Effectively, what is meant by that is that we have one version of the information. So everyone accesses that one same version. So actually, you know, everyone's working off the same fact base. What happens with some of the group information we receive, we bring stuff together in multiple times, and we can have multiple copies of information that can be modified or amended, and it's just actually being very clear on what is your single version of truth. This is not through the accounting ledger. This is more information that we pull in to do planning in particular.
So who would be the gatekeeper of that single source of truth?
That's still to be determined.
In
but
the
yeah, as you
development
work your way through that, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Right, question, Councillor Wayne Walker.
Sure. I can see the merit of the review, and obviously there's an emphasis on finance, and I quote here. It states, finance is the performance monitor for the group and needs to keep current with changing expectations, digitisation and external standards. And I understand where that's coming from. I guess my concern is that I would hope that we have other reviews that go to the Council's ability to reduce carbon and also meet its social, environmental and cultural requirements. And that similarly, we have performance evaluations and measures of effectiveness and the like across those. And they may sometimes be at odds with issues around finance. And I'm certainly mindful across the group that I see matters being addressed from a financial perspective that do not meet environmental, social, recreational and environmental performances on the part of council, and that those areas are suffering. So I just put that there, Mr. Mayor. We need to be able to take a comprehensive approach and not just do things on a cost basis.
Yeah, it's perhaps worth reminding everybody that the Value for Money Committee is not looking simply at making financial savings. It's looking at cutting unnecessary costs such as duplication. And when we cut unnecessary costs, that doesn't mean that we spend less. It just means that we direct the money towards spending in areas where we're achieving better things for our community. So this is absolutely consistent, for example, with your desire and my desire that we invest more in reducing our carbon footprint, because the money that we free up in an area where we're spending it on duplication, we can actually spend it on something that has a net positive effect for this council and our community. I think that's the important point to make. Right, if there's no other questions, it's a chance for comments. Councillor Lee, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regard to the $43 million a year in group annual expenditure for audit and risk management services, would it be possible to get a breakdown of where that $43 million per year is going?
So I'm confused by that.
Audit and risk. Listen to audit. That's the right port.
Through the chair, I'm just confused by the question referring to audit and risk. Sorry. Is that in terms of the cost of the finance function, or is it the audit fees, which are about 4.3 million?
Where is the 43 million going? Who's getting it? You know, what entity is being paid the 43 million every year? Yeah. Or obviously entities.
If I can just answer through the chair. I haven't got that in front of me, the number you're referring to, but that sounds right for across the entire group. for all of the audits undertaken, for annual reports, for long-term plans, for any amendments, any other reviews undertaken for stock exchange requirements across the entire group, would be that over a 10-year period.
Got some key facts, and all I want to know is what's behind that particular key fact. So I would request a breakdown, if we could, how that money is being dispersed. It's a lot of money.
Yes.
Second question, you've got borrowing increasing to 13.1 billion in 2028, but you've got here 8.8 billion as a key fact. Now, at the last report I had from Finance was, I think, in probably March, and it went back to December 2018, and it said that our borrowings were 8.285 billion, and that there was another 63 million being borrowed. So that would bring it up to 8.348 billion as a couple of months or so ago. But now I see it's gone up another $500 million. You don't have to answer it now, but could I have a breakdown of the borrowing that takes us from 8.285 billion as last reported up to the 8.8 billion?
Yep, through the chair, we can provide you the detailed breakdown. If you do remember, we had a previous question for you on this, and part of it comes down to timing. 30 June each year, the debt tends to be higher before we actually get the major rate intake coming through in July into August. So the debt levels come down significantly during July, August. But we can confirm exactly what that number is and what that point in time was for you.
I think it's absolutely important for the council, but, and I imagine moving into the next period, there'll be lots of questions and statements flying around about how much the council has borrowed and how much interest we're paying every day or every year or whatever. But I think it's important that there is consistency in those figures. I'm just worried about a $500 million difference. Maybe easily explicable, but it'll be good to get that explanation. Thank you.
Right, if there are no further comments or questions on this, the recommendations have been moved and seconded. I'll put the recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you very much again, both of you, for the work that you've done in this area. Item number 10 is a noting paper. I'll move it accordingly. Have a seconder from someone. Councillor Sayers. Just dealing with the forward work programme and the annual budget workshop minutes. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Carried. Item number 11 is a summary of confidential decisions and related information that can now be released, and this pertains to the Civic Administration Building and the minutes from way back in March 2016. So I'll move that we note this. Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you. Councillor Sayers again. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Carried. I'll now move. We've reached the end of our open agenda. We have one item under confidential, and this needs to be kept under confidential because it contains sensitive information which would compromise City Rail Link's negotiating position until what we're about to confirm is finalised. So I will move that the public should be excluded. Seconder, Deputy Mayor Cashmore. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Carried.